Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Let's cue the intro. This is the #1 podcast to learn marketing strategies for your board game. Whether you're just starting on your first game or an experienced designer, you've come to the right place. My name is Nalin, and let's talk marketing for your game. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. In this podcast, I interview creators who have successfully funded their ideas on Kickstarter to learn more about their journey to launch and help you formulate your own plan. I also bring on experts in the tabletop space to talk about all the facets of marketing and building your game publishing company. If you've been listening for a while now, you know that I hold nothing back. So in these episodes, be prepared to hear me ask the hard questions and really get down to the finer details. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our live interview. Today, we have with us Marcin Swierkot. Is that
perfect? Yeah,
perfect?
That worked well. That's good.
Perfect. Okay, we have Marcin from Gamefound and from Awakened Realms who will be talking to us about crowdfunding on Gamefound. Welcome, Marcin.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on here because we've all been really curious about just crowdfunding on Gamefound. I would love it if you could kind of start telling us more about the platform and why this happened.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting story. All right, yeah. So basically, for those of you who don't know, Gamefound was a pledge manager for 3 years, about plus 4 years, and it started as a very low-key project. We have the very first pledge manager done on WordPress, I feel like, and the first big thing was it kind of came up with as a surprise that you have a platform as big as Kickstarter, and after the campaign is finished, you need to, do another thing and use another tool, which was just weird as a first-time creator back then, 3 to 4 years ago, right? But, if you have below 1,000 people, it's okay. You can manage with Excel and whatever. But then you get to our first game, big game was This War of Mine. And, then you have over 10,000 backers. And it's, starts to be tricky, right? So at This War of Mine point, we decided we either can do other pledge managers that were on the market or just create our own software. And back then we were kind of already thinking long term in terms of if you want to make a tool, we checked what other tools were, and they didn't really offer what we needed the most. And what we needed the most was the invoicing module. Basically automatize the taxes process. The VAT is a hot topic recently. So for us, it was hot topic 3 years ago. So 3 or 4 years ago. So the other pledges didn't have this functionality, and we decided all right, let's then develop a tool directly for our needs. And once we developed this tool, and it was first a bit rough, but with a lot of different options, we decided all right, so we can just share this tool with others for free, because why not? We already done the work, right? And then we'll be starting building the community, and let's see where things go from that. And we didn't know whether we want to do another crowdfunding or whatnot, but we always community is one of our values. So we know that if you give good service to people, good product, or generally bring value to their lives, they are much more prone to give it back. So we knew that if we will save other creators a lot of money, there will be some kind of value in that, right? They will like us more or whatnot. We didn't know exactly what it will mean, but looking at the Gamefound, I think we saved something like 5 million euro to people, which is a lot of money, right, for the pledge manager. And then after a year or so, we saw this thing lifting off with more and more, I would call professional creators. Hold on, I will just get the camera. Okay. Yeah. Using the tool, and also we started talking with them, and also they experienced basically the same thing that we did, is that at some level of creating a big projects once a year or once every 2 years or whatever, you need much more professional tools than what Kickstarter offers. So Kickstarter is great if you're just one guy doing a small project or whatnot, right? But if you're actually a company with 20 people on board working on board games and producing like 2-3 board games a year, for example, and so forth, you're kind of looking for a much more kind of like a sophisticated tool dedicated to board games and so forth, right? So this is where we start thinking like, maybe there's a good place to create something that will like move things forward for board game crowdfunding, because that's the idea, to like make this process more better for both creators and users. And we, as a company, the kind of the logic that we always have is that to kind of create value for people, and this is how you do good business. This is like in general our idea, right? And if we wouldn't think that, if you would just to want to make a Kickstarter clone, we wouldn't make it. Like we wouldn't touch it, because this would not bring any additional value to the hobby. It would actually divide it will be actually worse, right? But if we decided to do what we do because we felt like there are a lot of things that we can improve on. And especially the aspect of dedicating this to the board games, which makes a lot of sense, and which actually makes a lot of things possible. Because if you're thinking as a Kickstarter, probably they are not doing a lot of things because they have, the technology sector, they have the performance sector, art sector, and whatnot, right? And probably more difficult to do some things that are rooted in board games, but it's for them it's only 25% of the platform, and it's harder. So that's why we decided that we can make it. And just last week we got over 400,000 users, which is also shows that's a lot of people, especially if they are only board gamer creators. So it was definitely something interesting. And one of the things that there are a lot of people that are just like thinking like, that like we're doomed to fail because the Kickstarter is too big and whatnot, and we're just coming in. But the one thing that I think is very different is that this is not a project that we started 3 months ago. This is a project that we're working for 3 to 4 years. So we have a huge like technological like groundwork already done, foundation. We have a very good team of programmers, and they're very dedicated, talented, and working very hard to make sure that this happen. So very like this year will be exciting for Gamefound. I'm very happy to see it.
From like a product perspective, it makes a lot of sense where you are focusing on just pretty much like one target market, where it's board game creators, and really just building out everything that they need, like a full suite pretty much of things they need, starting from that crowdfunding sector all the way through to pledge management, and like what you need beyond too, for not just an indie creator, but a more extensive campaign launch. So I can definitely see that.
And there is more thing coming, because our like final vision is to make the process as easy for the creator as possible. So we want to make taxes, for example, manageable from the platform level, automatized for everyone, where you can just, like my best comparison is what Steam did for digital games. They are taking care of everything from the administration standpoint, the taxes, servers, updates, delivery to the users and whatnot, right? And they're charging you for it. And you just get one invoice as a creator, and you can focus 100% on making your game, and and it works really good. We also are using Steam as a digital creator right now, and comparing this to what we had with board games, where we literally spent hundreds of hours on building infrastructure for taxes, for example. We have like 10 people just dedicated to taxes, which is crazy, right?
Wow.
But that's a huge topic on itself, right? And having that, I can 100% attest that if the creators from the platform, especially those like one person creators or like smaller teams, if they wouldn't have to do, all the logistics, taxes, and so forth, and they would just focus on the game, we would have much more amazing games right now. So
taxes. There's so many questions coming about that. So I'm really, really glad there's so many people just focused on that, even at Gamefound. So from like a development standpoint, right? You said you've been building up this infrastructure for a really long time. Do you have a specific dedicated team just working on Gamefound, developing everything on Gamefound?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like 11 people currently, and we're like having more coming soon. So yeah, it wasn't like it started with one person, Shimon, who was CTO, and he was working alone. Like first he was working just as a commission, then he came in just like a half of vacancy, and then he started full time, and then it grow like step by step. It was a very, very like stiff process of just many iterations. And at first I think platform was very rough on the start, but then I think that currently it's like one of the best pledge managers on the market, and a lot of people enjoy using it. And like 400,000 users, I think that it speaks volumes on that people use it with success, and also creators saving money. So
love it.
That's good.
Yeah, love it. So now from like more of a crowdfunding perspective, right? There's a lot of people who sent in questions before we actually started this this call here, and they were asking, what are kind of the differences between crowdfunding on Gamefound and crowdfunding on Kickstarter? There's clear differences that we can see on the page itself, right? Sure. Can you tell more in detail, like what were you envisioning for the crowdfunding creator themselves on Gamefound?
Sure. All right, yeah. So currently the difference is mostly in the features, I would say. So having the pledges and add-ons and stretch goals embedded in the system, where you can easily distinguish during the campaign who ordered what and see everything and have all the details, which is very important, especially for creator trying to decide whether, for example, he wants make a German language editions of a game, right? You need those numbers because there's only a threshold where it makes sense or not, right? And also with an add-ons, right? You need to know whether something makes sense to make or not. And a lot of data from the Kickstarter is like you have only a list of people and how much money they got, and it's not enough, right? So this is definitely helpful during the campaign. And also the link to the pledge manager makes it so that making the pledge manager after the campaign on Gamefound is much easier process. Normally, after the Kickstarter campaign, when you do a pledge manager, you need to basically enter all the informations again to another system, fill all the tables, blah, blah, blah. It's quite, draining. It's probably even more complicated than creating a Kickstarter page. And on Gamefound, it will be much faster because it's the same system. So you just take it in here. You just need to enter the shipping rates and kind of connect them. And pretty much that's it. You have all the users already there. They all have accounts. They are not getting to some outside different system. They are not surprised. So I think it's much better in terms of like it makes more sense, I would say. So that's the thing. And currently I would say that those are the biggest difference. But we also, and also a big thing is being dedicated to board games. That the only crowdfunding is there's only and we also have multiple features that helps spread the word about the projects and so forth and so forth. But we also obviously like the biggest changes I think is in the future. Because what we have in mind is definitely embed creators like the YouTube creators, reviewers, and so forth onto the platform in some way or form. We definitely want to help create some ways of making sure that the good project will be heard by other people. So some special marketing and stuff like that. And we know. Like we have a lot of experience as Awaken Realms on that front, and we can kind of use it and we can kind of unify it. And the cool thing is that we can do the same about production, logistics, and taxes, what we say, because it doesn't make sense for 300 different creators a month to learn the same thing, the same mistakes over and over again. It doesn't make sense. Like when we look at from the top down, it's pointless for everyone to learn the same mistake on the production, for example. There should be a database where all the companies share that, or it's managed. So this is something that we'll be aiming for. It's long term. It's probably 2 to 3 years, step by step, evolving the platform. But we definitely want to create things like, for example, pricing calculator for a board game, where you will put in like how many cards does your game have? Okay, what grammature do you want to have? Do you want a double lamination of cards or not? And then it shows you, okay, so this number in 1,000 quantity, this is the estimated price, 5,000. This is the estimated price, right? And based on that, you can do good decisions. Because one of the problems on the crowdfunding, obviously, is campaigns that under-deliver or do not deliver. And I'm a huge believer that 98% or not even 99% of the creators start up with really good intentions. They want to create those games or whatnot. But very often, they don't know how to calculate things, and they overpromise, or commit to too much, which doesn't make sense. Very often I see projects on Kickstarter, and after my experience, I can tell after 5 minutes that no way that they will make money on delivery, right? And this is a problem, I would say. And if we would put all those information beforehand to the creators, then first of all, they have much better information to create those campaigns, to cater to the backers. And on the other hand, the backers will actually have a better guarantee that the creator knows what he's doing, right? So especially for the first-time creators, it will just help them focus on making the game because of all the safe time that they are going to have. So definitely this is our vision to create it more refined tools for the creators to use with success to kind of aid them with connecting them to the right partners or so forth, right?
Yeah. So it's not only just like creating the platform or the tool to kind of help creators do this, but also in a way creating that educational material or educational steps in order to make sure that people know more about the front end, the back end, so that of crowdfunding, so that they can more successfully perform the whole kind of process too. And one of the kind of main things that people are asking too, and I myself as a marketer wonder, right, is when you go to Kickstarter, you kind of build up a crowd, you put people into Kickstarter, and then Kickstarter kind of starts pushing you out to a lot of people on their network who might like your game, get some backers, things like that. How does that translate to Gamefound? Does that translate to the Gamefound? Is there that internal traffic that you're going to be building out? Like, can you kind of talk to us more about that?
Sure thing. All right. I'm kind of a skeptic of the organic movement on the Kickstarter platform to an extent. Like I definitely there is something like that happening. But if you're in the mid-tier of projects, so like successful but not the top projects, I don't feel that they are getting a lot of organic movement from the Kickstarter. Only the top projects are getting pushed. And those top projects, I know all those creators, and I don't know a single creator that do not do marketing on their own. And you need to do that, basically. And I don't know a single project that, were extremely successful without any marketing effort outside, like Facebook marketing, emails, groups, or previous game that was successful and so forth. So that's why I'm kind of a skeptic. I believe that there is something about it. Probably my estimate, like it's hard to tell, because obviously the Kickstarter give you some kind of analytics, and when you look at their analytics, they will say that 50 to 60% of traffic is from Kickstarter, which is that's not true, 100%. Like I'm sure that that's not true, and I think that everyone who knows the traffic knows that this is. But every platform does that. When you look at Google, Facebook, they all want to say like, no, all your traffic is from Facebook, and the Google will say, no, all your traffic is from Google. Like, don't look at the data, right? So because people don't realize, but the way you count referrals and marketing movement and traffic allocations, it's so complicated. what do you do? Like the person will click in the Facebook ad and comes to the Kickstarter, right? And then open up a new window tab on the Kickstarter and go to the new window tab. Will it still count as the person who came from the commercial, or will it be counted as organic traffic from Kickstarter, right? And there are like zillions of examples like that. What if someone closed the window and just coming next day, it will be organic traffic, right? But he learned about the campaign due to Facebook campaign, blah, blah, blah. Long topic, right? So there is definitely something, and obviously the Kickstarter has quite huge user base. And I think that the biggest organic movement currently is that there are a lot of projects that are doing marketing on their own. And when someone comes to the project page, they can back or not back and then be like, oh, but I will see also what's other projects, probably. That would be my biggest guess on the organic movement, right? And this have benefits and drawbacks. The benefit is obviously there is a possibility of more people coming in. The drawback is that if you're on the Kickstarter, you compete with 300 different projects, and people change the pledges all the time, where they will drop your pledge and get the other one, come back, blah blah blah, and it's very stressful for a creator when you see your campaign drop. It's one of the most stressful things that you experience during the campaign, and obviously, we're after one campaign on Gamefound, so I cannot tell you this with 100%. But on the ESS Vanguard, we see much less drop rate on the pledges. So I think that in the early stages, not having to battle with those 300 different projects, it's probably nice. So that's for one. But there is quite a lot organic movement as well. Not Kickstarter levels, obviously, but the pledge managers. First of all, you have the influence of new people when the new pledge manager opens, and those are the pledge managers for one of the biggest projects out there. We have Darkest Dungeon, we had Bardsung, we had a lot of big pledge managers coming in, basically, opening up, and then people come in, change their address, check out their pledge, check out on their project, see an update, put a comment out. So there's a lot of that as well. And currently, this movement, I wouldn't say that it's well directed currently, but this is one of the things that we're going to do in the future. And we want to do, one thing that we definitely want to do is to make it in a way the Netflix does it. So when you come into the main page or you finish your pledge or whatever, there will be like, okay, so you like this kind of like Euro strategy game, right? Because we have tags, every game have tags. So those are some other Euro strategy games that you might like, right? Or those are some kind of other, because you bought this game, you should like also those games. And generally, I think that it will be an interesting way to kind of put more context to what we're kind of showing to people. And if you are a backer, you also will have a better, you'll not get to see all the projects that you are not interested to, but you'll see more context to that, which I feel is always better, right? I always say, I am happy when I get to learn from the advertisement something that I actually need. That's what I would say, right? So always the more context I get is I feel like this is a good benefit for me as well.
Got it. So pretty much it's like building up your own product specific crowd and communities is not only important in Kickstarter, but it's going to be really important for Gamefound too at the beginning.
Oh, that's always important. Mm-hmm. You have to. Before this is 2021. It may be 10 years ago, you could go organically, just go in and people would learn about it. But right now, you need to have a community beforehand. And this is something that everyone, I think that this is a common knowledge at this point, hopefully. And you need to also do your own marketing. And yeah, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah. So with this said, from like a creator standpoint too, right? What is it like kind of launching? Is it available worldwide? Once Gamefound crowdfunding Gamefound opens up, is it worldwide? Any can create campaigns? What kind of languages is it going to support? Can you kind of talk us through kind of the nitty-gritty details about that?
Sure. So at the very start, right now we have a period when we only have like a handful selected creators coming in on the platform. We have very exciting projects coming up. We'll have like at the end of February, we'll have an announcement of like what's coming up, and there's like some really good ones. And starting with Lucky Duck Games today, actually in 1.5 hours, we're starting the Kingdom Rush campaign, and very excited to see how this one will fall. And yeah, after this 3 months period, the reason we want that 3 months period is that we need we basically want to make sure that the process is perfectly fine. We also want to have a good grip on terms and conditions for creators to know what's allowed or not, how do we approach it, and to be very transparent about it. And after that, we'll open to like majority of the countries out there. I think that 25 countries are not supported by Adyen, because the biggest reason is not that we will exclude some countries, but it's kind of like regulated by our payment processing partner. For Kickstarter uses Stripe, we are using Adyen. And the list is very similar, but a bit different. There are some countries that are on the Stripe, but it's not on Adyen. But for majority of the markets, or European Union, US, Canada, Australia, all are green lighted. So that's all right. And obviously, as for reaching customers, it's pretty much the same. So I would say that we'll be in very similar position to Kickstarter. As for the language editions, right now we'll be in English, but if someone wants to make a campaign in German or whatnot, sure, why not?
Yeah, and for currency purposes, is everything run in USD? Like, what is that like from currency?
No, you can do Euro, USD, British Pound, basically whatever currency you wanted. There are some regulations that, for example, if you're a company in Europe, in European Union, you should use Euro. And if you want to make a campaign in USD, because you can make that, but then the money before they will reach you will be converted to Euro, because this is like an international thing, like international law. That is, I think, I'm not sure why it is. It's probably like some very old thing that was somewhere just to protect the currency exchange rates or whatnot. But generally you can use different currencies.
Perfect.
And we support the three big ones, which is Euro, British Pound, and the US dollar.
Perfect. And I know that you have to go pretty soon, so I'm going to kind of quickly wrap up with a few last questions that people have here that should be a little shorter. What are kind of the commissions that people pay for using Gamefound? Because Kickstarter has a 5%, there's like Stripe fees and all that. Yeah. What is it like for Gamefound in future?
Sure. Right now, so basically it will be very similar. So 5 plus 3%. The difference is that currently in this period, 3 months period, where we have like the few selected campaigns and so forth, we are kind of adding like a marketing budget to kind of like aid them and support them as well, as a kind of like an extra draw. And we'll see how it will continue. But generally we're aiming for the same pricing, but with more tools available and kind of like better support. That will be our way.
Got it. For better support, do you mean kind of like a campaign strategist to help you through the process?
As well.
Oh, okay.
We also do that like for every campaign now, but we also like come into the page and actually say like, oh, this is going to be done here and so forth. And we also are very open to like actual email contact with our team members. One thing that is unfortunate is that very often, running campaign is stressful. Everyone who runs campaign is stressful. And if you don't have this like one contact to the platform that you can know that you can reach out and get an answer pretty fast or call, it is double stressful because things sometimes, you don't know what to do or how to do it. And you're afraid because if you add a pledge, people start buying it, you cannot edit it anymore, and so forth and so forth, right? So we know that ourselves from being there and not having support. So for me, it will be awesome to have that support, and that's what we're aiming for. We definitely want to support creators also during campaign, before campaign. And yeah, so that's something that we want to do as well.
Love it. And one final question, right? Is there pixel tracking?
Yeah, sure. That's one important thing, and we can you can actually have 2 pixel, one for yourself and one, for example, if you use like BackerKit or whatever other marketing you're gonna do. So you can add 2. You can have. We also have a referrals, which is a bit more conservative on the earning. And you have a Google Analytics, all 3 working pretty well, and dashboard. So it's weird that Kickstarter doesn't have Facebook Pixel. It's weird.
Very weird, especially for high spend campaigns. Just like Awaken Realms on it.
You have to do like a third party website to go direct through it to the.
It's messy. It's messy. All right.
It's messy. It is.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, Marcin, thank you so much for your time. Yep. I know you had limited time, so I wanted to make sure that we have as many of the questions answered as possible, but also be constant of your time, Ian.
Sure. Thank you very much. So maybe just to finish up, if you would like to learn more about Pledge Manager, or just opening up your own crowdfunding campaign, you can reach out to business@gamefound.com. We have 2 very excited key account managers waiting for your emails that will just help you, get you through the process, or answer any questions that you might have, right? So we definitely, in this early period, I think this is a good place to be in an early adapter, because we also listen to a lot of feedback, and whenever you have the problem tools, there is quite a high chance that we'll just implement a solution to the problem. So
is this going to be open for people pretty recently then? Because I know you're in a 3-month period right now.
Yeah. We'll see exactly when we will get everything ironed out. So I don't want to commit to a date. But we're aiming for it, and the cool thing is that the infrastructure is ready. We had ESS Vanguard, which was a huge project. Like, I think that it's like 150,000 people coming within an hour span or whatever, right? And our servers didn't even flinched. It was like the response time was 0.02 seconds on the request. So, wow. Yeah, that's the 3 years period when we laid the groundwork actually worked out pretty well for us, and especially those we experienced a lot of high traffic with the pledge managers, so our servers are good. We can do a lot of kind of like high speed operations on the website and so forth, which is not so obvious, right? People don't think like our Nemesis lockdown kind of break the servers campaign, and for 4 hours I had no idea what's happening, so that was weird. But this is hard. This is some really hard stuff to do, to make sure that your infrastructure is stable, that your servers are enough to carry over everything, and so forth and so forth. So basically a lot of things happening, and this year will be very exciting for Gamefound for sure. So. Thank you very much for the conversation. Thank you so much. We'll speak again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. And that wraps up our episode today. If you found what we talked about today helpful in any way, please be sure to leave a review to help others find this podcast. And most importantly, if you're feeling that fire and you're ready to get started on your Kickstarter campaign, be sure to head to the show notes of the podcast. I've linked some of my resources that others have used to successfully launch and get funded. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. For daily tips and advice, find us in the Board Game Marketing group on Facebook. See you next week.